Hello and welcome back to SCARE. I am Taylor. I'm the Youth Programs Coordinator here at SCARE, and I work directly with our youth tutoring as well. But first things first, thank you for joining us for part 2 of our Momentum Career Training series. If you haven't already, I really recommend going back and viewing the first part, which is also on our YouTube page as well. But today we are kicking off part 2. So as I mentioned, this is part of our Momentum Career Training series. This is the first time we've done a series quite like this, where it's split up into 4 different parts. And today we're going to be talking about career exploration and really diving into all the details and really how to narrow down your options and find exactly what path you'd like to take for any type of career. As I mentioned, this is a 4-part series. So part 1 was actually released in December of last year, and that one focused on visualizing your future, releasing boundaries, and goal setting. So today's training is focused on career exploration, which is a wonderful start to the almost springtime. And then some of the ones you can expect in the future are going to be our healthy communication, which will be released around June. And then also getting to meet the employers, which will be released around September as well. So before we dive into anything else, I am going to go over momentum and what that means and really why we chose that as our theme for this whole training series as well. Momentum is movement. Momentum is energy. When movement and energy meet, they become your vision. As you visualize your future, your visions become your first steps. First steps become goals that you create that you can realistically achieve because you set your pace. You are the momentum for your focus, your passion, your goals for your family. As you create your momentum, you naturally begin to take steps needed to visualize your goals as actions and positive energy for your future. Be kind to yourself. I wanted to give this other example of momentum. And I'm sure you're going to be hearing a ton of different examples. We had some other ones in the first video as well. But today I wanted to talk about how I think about, maybe you've seen this little instrument before, but it's a series of these metal balls that are hanging from a metal frame. And you take that one ball, you pull it back, and when you release it, it starts to hit the other ones, and it has this chain reaction where one at a time, it hits the other one and propels the next one to go. So instead of them all going at once, it really just shows how the energy from one releases to the next one, and then that from that one to the next. And so this is one of the examples of momentum, and especially with something like career training and really getting these tangible goals, setting these specific goals for yourself and taking the steps to reach those goals. It is sort of like this little device here where one of your steps is actually going to be the first step, that first creating force. And then once you take that step, it's going to directly impact your next one and give you the energy to be able to move forward again. And that momentum carries on one after another and keeps it going. So before we dive into anything else for today's training, I did want to review some of the things that we talked about in part 1 as well. I know it was a few months ago, so it'll be a nice little review of some of the topics mentioned because, like I said, it is going to be building up on some of the previous topics before. So our last part of the career training series was focused on visualizing your future, releasing boundaries, and goal setting. So we talked a bit about finding support at SCARE. So just learning what kind of resources are available and how you can reach out to people that will help you reach your goals. So you're already part of Tribal TANF, which is a wonderful first step. And then we also mentioned some of the programs we have at SCARE. So we have 5. We partner with Tribal TANF, as you already know. We also have our HAUCA program, our Native Networks program, our American Indian Education Center program, in our Tobacco Use and Prevention Education program. And so the AIEC and the 2P programs are geared specifically towards youth primarily, but also serve some adults as well. So it's not just for you reaching your goals, it's for your whole family. We also heard from Tekka about visualizing your future. So Tekka went over just finding your reasons to set and reach your goals. So finding out exactly what your motivation is, why you want to have these goals in the first place, and also really emphasizing just finding what works for you. Everyone has different circumstances, different experiences. And so we heard a lot of Tekka's personal experiences, specifically with tribal TANF and also with SCARE. And so through that, we learned a lot about identifying your passion, overcoming all these different obstacles, all these barriers, and then also advocating for yourself along the way. We heard from Heidi about it's all about you. So Heidi discussed all of our counseling options, especially here at SCARE. She gave a wonderful tour of our counseling centers as well, and maybe some things you can expect from our counseling. So counseling is really like this extra support for you and also your children as well. And there are a lot of different options for it, whether it's individual counseling or group counseling. There are women's groups, there are youth groups, things like that as well. And also a lot of different options. So you can attend counseling for maybe it's career counseling. We can do that as well. You can do still something with lifestyle or personal experiences and just self-improvement overall. And so once you hear all those options, it's really just deciding if it's helpful for you or something that your children could benefit from as well in order to reach your goals. And then in part 1, we also heard from Michelle about it's in the planning. So Michelle discussed all these different ways to prepare to return to the workforce. So she did a great job in outlining what job searching looks like nowadays, because we don't always have to go into a place and apply in person. There are tons of options online for even finding out about what jobs are available. And then also just understanding how everything with the job process, the interview process has changed, especially since the pandemic. So now, instead of going in for all your interviews, you might be starting on the phone or starting on a Zoom interview and then kind of building up towards in-person as well. And the job options have changed significantly since the pandemic as well, where we don't always have to go in person for any type of job. We might be able to work from home or maybe some hybrid of the sort where you're working in person, but also from home. So it's a lot of different changes and options now. And then it was just the beginning of also identifying your goals. Also in part 1, we heard from Kate about how to motivate yourself. So understanding how you find motivation, whether it's from people encouraging you, your family, maybe it's certain goals that you would love to reach or things that you want to do. Maybe it comes from yourself, comes from inside. And then also just like taking that motivation to help you reach these goals and set goals. And so when you're setting goals, instead of having it be one overwhelming big chunk, one end goal, Kate discussed breaking it up into these manageable pieces. So she called it these bite-sized pieces, which makes a lot of sense because then it's not just one end goal of, oh, become a nurse, where you have goals that are in different chunks where it's like, okay, research how to become a nurse, what I need to become a nurse. Okay, and then your next goal can be getting a certain certificate, going to school, and it's just these other steps that help build up to reach your goal. Kate also talked about finding all these barriers that might influence your goals as well. So things like finances, maybe things like housing, childcare, family. It's all these different circumstances that everyone has that are going to change the way we reach our goals and maybe even change our goals around as well. But also just finding your support and motivation to do your best. So like I said, we have so many options at SCARE through Tribal TANF. There's so many ways to find support, whether it's through the people around you or different organizations, and also just keeping up with your motivation. So understanding what motivates you, who motivates you, and how you can do your best in reaching these goals as well. And then lastly, in part 1, we heard from Atle on taking the first step. So Atle had this wonderful example of a snowball as an example of momentum. So in this example, we start off with like a baseball-sized snowball. We maybe push it down a mountain. It's accumulating snow. It's growing and growing. So maybe when it's a small baseball-sized snowball, it might hit a rock and slow down, or might hit a little bump and kind of be thrown off. But once this snowball starts to accumulate and get bigger and bigger and faster, it becomes almost unstoppable. It gains so much momentum that these things that might have stopped it before are less of an obstacle. And so in a similar way, we do the same thing when we're taking all these steps in reaching our goals, where with each step, no matter what our goal is, no matter what we're doing, we are building momentum. And over time, we learn so much more as we continue to grow, that something that would have been a huge obstacle in the past, maybe slowed us down a ton, actually becomes something way more manageable, and we know how to get through it and get over it, right? And so part of this, taking the first step and building our snowball-sized, our baseball-sized snowball, is something like getting certificates through SCARE. So especially with careers, it is so nice to have some tangible, like hands-on experience, see all the different ways to use Microsoft, and have something that you can show employers that give you so much more credibility in your skills as well. So that is just a great place to start as well. But now that we've reviewed a lot of the part one, I mean, that was just a short review. If you haven't seen it already, go watch part one, and so much more information than what I just stated right now too. That was just a quick summary. But moving forward, just to prepare for today's training, I just want you to keep in mind, just understanding that, just knowing what works for you. So before we even get into the whole career exploration portion, just thinking about what you can be happy doing, but also knowing what you can and can't do is very helpful. So these are just some of the details to keep in mind to help you narrow down what pathway might be good for you, or what career options are good for you. And whenever you're thinking about a career or choosing a specific pathway, it also is important to keep in mind that a full-time job means that you might be working 8 hours a day, maybe more, maybe less, but it is a significant amount of time. So it is really important to find a job that you like going to. I mean, preferably something that you just love to do. And if you have people that you like working with, it makes it so much better and so much more enjoyable to get up and go to work every single day as well. So as I mentioned, this is really going to be about finding your pathway and narrowing down what options would work for you. So decide what you want from a job and find what's suitable for you. So these are some example questions that you can ask yourself whenever you're trying to narrow down certain jobs or certain careers that way. So some questions might be, do you like working indoors, or do you prefer working outdoors? Do you like working on technical projects, so maybe something that's more behind the scenes, or do you like working on some hands-on projects? Or maybe there is a certain population you like working with. So if you like working with kids, you might think, okay, so maybe something with tutoring or teaching or daycare programs, right? Or maybe you don't like working with kids at all. Maybe you'd prefer to work with adults, or maybe even working with the senior population. So these are just some of the questions to ask yourself to help give you an idea, just to help you know where to start and where to start looking for any type of pathway. And one thing that is really amazing now is you can really use your passions to find something that suits you. So using your interests and passions to find certain jobs, I think there's so many more options that we have nowadays that we didn't have even a few years ago. So maybe even 5-10 years ago, we didn't see people making a living off of things like YouTube, where there's so many more options and we just have to know how to find them. But think about your passions and use that to help you tailor down something. Maybe you like gardening, or you like time outdoors, you like working with plants. So maybe you could be something like a florist, or working with even like the department, like if you're working into like a department store, working with the plants specifically, caring for the plants, growing them that way. And then there's just so many ways to use so many different passions. Maybe you love helping people. So then you can kind of narrow down from there. Like, do you want to help people with maybe some certain circumstances in their life? Maybe it's health, maybe it's helping them find their passion or find their careers. All of these things can help you kind of figure out and tailor your own interest into a career as well. Some things you can expect to hear today from my colleagues. So, of course, career exploration. So you will be hearing about all the different steps to narrow down exactly what career you might like to do. And so what that really means also is just finding out how to find the steps you need to take for certain careers. So finding out what school is needed, what skills are needed, and using that to try to see what you are a good fit for. You'll also be hearing from some of my colleagues about vocational and academic assessments. So these assessments can help you get an idea of your own skills, your own levels, and some things that are more suitable for you, especially if you don't know exactly where to start, or if you have so many options in mind that you just need to narrow it down a little bit more. You'll also be hearing about financial planning for college. So something that is often stressful and maybe feels impossible, of course, with college is the finances. But there are so many options for financial aid now. So you'll be hearing about all the steps to take for financial planning and how to work through that and the steps to take to be able to attend college or maybe some other schooling as well. And then lastly, you will be hearing about career opportunities through networking. So just the way that your relationship with people around you, with maybe previous jobs, and how that can help you out when finding other opportunities and other careers as well. Because word of mouth is a big way to hear from things now, but it really does help you understand your own abilities and it helps you find other opportunities. As I mentioned, this is all going to be about career exploration. So we'll dive into it with the other, with my colleagues as well, but really hope you guys enjoy this. And just a reminder to fill out the surveys. There are going to be surveys sent out to you with this training. Please fill it out. And if you have any topics you'd like us to talk about, please write it down because we would love to incorporate it in some of our future training videos as well. Thank you.
Hello, and welcome to Momentum with Michelle O'Quinn. I am Michelle O'Quinn. So when we talk about momentum is magnitude times velocity, and that's what equals momentum. So let's put this in English. So the mass or the magnitude, the quantity, times the velocity, which is like the speed, is what creates your momentum. So in this case, when we're talking about career exploration, we're talking about the mass or the magnitude of the information that you have, the knowledge that you have, the skill that you have, times the velocity of your inspiration or the velocity of your motivation. And that creates a momentum towards career exploration or towards looking for work. And so this is momentum and career exploration. So we're going to be looking at things such as your goals, how your goals work with your interests, to finding a career, skills, your personal values, your abilities, and relationships. And these are personal relationships. So today's agenda is preparing for career exploration. And so we kind of have to look at this word career. So a career is your life's work, your body of skill, your area of proficiency or professionalism, like that is your career. A job is just something you get paid for. So career exploration is learning about various occupations and how they fit with your preferences and with your interests. And then with those, being able to identify those two things, it can direct you onto a career path. And that's where we want to be. We want to be on a path of finding our career, our dream job, what were we meant to do. And to start, we have career planning. So in career planning, you have the 3 C's, which is clarity on what is my direction, what are my goals, what profession would I be good in? Then the next C is competitiveness. How can I enhance my marketability? How can I enhance my skills? How can I enhance my knowledge? So like your knowledge and your skills, no one can take that away from you. So as long as you are expanding in knowledge of what it is, the profession that you want to get into, you're expanding on your knowledge, you're expanding on your experience. No one can take that away from you. And that's the beautiful thing about learning things. And the last C is connections. And connections is how can I connect with alumni that have already been in this field, or how can I connect with employers that are in this field? So again, like I said, my name is Michelle O'Quinn. And with every workshop, I always give like a little brief summary about myself so that people get to know where I'm coming from when I'm sharing all this information with you. So with my backstory, in 2010, I became a single mom of 7 kids. The youngest child was 12 days old. At that time, I was working full time. I also went to school. I had to go to school online because my mom was in Florida. My dad was in the VA hospital. He was hospitalized for 3 years. He was diagnosed with Guillain-Barré, which basically shuts down your nervous system. So he was hospitalized for 3 years around that. So basically, I didn't have a social structure in place or anyone that could help me. So basically, I had to help myself. And I worked full time. I was a program director over three sites. I had a total of 180 employees. Of those 180 employees, I hired most of them. I trained all of them. And our last site was located in Barrio Logan on Commercial, which is very close to downtown. So my participants were homeless, transitioning from homelessness, transitioning from drug abuse and alcoholism. I found that at that particular site, the more that I helped the parent, the more I helped the children and everyone else around them. So that became my passion, to help other people and to help people get out of the situation that they were in and try to work their way out. So I've been with parents who were homeless, who transitioned from homelessness. You know, we celebrated their first car, we celebrated their first apartment, we celebrated their first couch, you know, so there's a lot to celebrate. But I mean, those are major milestones, you know, depending on what their background was. And I was happy to be a part of that. So now what I do with SCARE is that I assist adults and looking for work and to help them clean up their social media, to beef up their resume, and also to let you know that you have skills. Just because you don't have a certificate or a degree or anything shiny, you still have skills, you still have marketable skills. And I try to show people what their strengths are. So when you're thinking about looking for work and going back into the workforce, especially if you've been away for a long time, it's time to update. So you need to look at things such as your email, your contact list and your references, your social media, your telephone number, and tagged locations on that social media. So your email, you want to make sure that your email is professional. A lot of it having maybe your first initial dot, your last name at whatever the email site you choose. You don't want to apply for a job and then your email is hanklovesfishing@gmail.com, or something weird like that, or Annabelle 1820. You don't want to have your birth year in there. So you want to try to keep your email address semi-professional. When it comes to your contacts and your references, you look at the jobs that you're searching for, the career that you're trying to go into, and then check out your references and what would those references say about you, and what would a future employer think of the reference that you've given them, to kind of gauge what your character is like. Next is your social media. This is very, very important. You should go into your social media and put everything on private. And then you have maybe some things that might be set to public, and it could be an individual post. That thing will still be public. So you need to go through every single post and see what you still have public, and is that appropriate. Also, you want to look at locations where you're tagged. You don't want to be tagged at a dispensary unless you're looking for a job at the dispensary. You don't want to be tagged at a bar every weekend, because employers might see that as a red flag. Make sure that your phone, that you're writing down a working phone number. A house line, a landline might be more suitable, depending on what your situation is with the cell phone. I suggest to all my participants to Google themselves. You want to look at social networking sites such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Google yourself. So that would mean that you would need to go on your computer or Chromebook and Google yourself. You can't Google yourself from your phone. Well, maybe you can. I think you can. And then some things will come up in Google Images. But it's easier to see what other people see if you're not on your phone, because there's the tracking and I can't find the word right now. But it's kind of like the cookies where you leave crumbs, and so they show you what you want to see. So you want to go on an impartial computer so that you can actually see what other people see. Like I said about Facebook, you want to make sure that you have everything set on private, because employers will look for you on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram to see what you have to say, to see what kind of content you post, because they want to make sure that they're not bringing someone into their environment that's not going to be productive and that's just going to cause chaos. So they will check you. Checking your Facebook is just like checking your references, because I know I've done it. I've checked social media with clients that I've had at my previous job, and I've checked Facebook for people that were looking for employment with me, and it kind of gave me some direction as to how to address this person, how to talk to them, and if they were going to be a good fit for the company. Also, you want to check your image sharing sites such as Google Photo, Dropbox, and Flickr. Video hosting sites such as YouTube and Vimeo. I found that interesting because I actually had a participant who had no idea that there was a video of them on YouTube. So yeah, you can put your name into YouTube and find out if there's any videos of you. Community blogs such as WordPress, Wix, and Squarespace. I know when blogging first came out, a lot of people had a blog. So you might want to see if you have an old blog that was still up, and maybe you were a little goth back then and then now you're not. But you still want to take those things down. Negative digital footprint. So inappropriate photographs or information that you have on social media is a negative digital footprint. Photos of you drinking, using drugs, or supporting drug use, wearing t-shirts that say 420 or have marijuana plants, and employers might not find that appropriate. Negative comments about other people. This is a big one because if you can't control yourself enough to not post things like that on social media, then the employer feels that you will not have enough self-control to in the workplace. And being that we're in the workplace for the majority of our time, we want to have a peaceful work environment. Poor writing skills, writing communication skills, that could be a negative digital footprint. I know many times we're trying to write really fast when we're on Facebook or Instagram, but an employer, depending on what kind of job it is, may look at that as a red flag. And discriminatory comments related to race, religion, and gender. So a positive digital footprint can be your personality fits the current company culture. So before I had made the comment about having a blog, and that, before you may have been goth and then like now you're not. But if you're trying to get a job at Hot Topic and they see that, hey, you know all about this, I think that you'll be a good fit for us. So just your own personality coming through, and then an employer can feel like you'll make a good fit with them. Or your background information supports the professional qualifications for the job. Your friends list mirror a professional network. So when you're working in a certain area of profession, a lot of times you meet the same people, and then you end up adding them as friends on your social media, and then you guys network that way. It's not very uncommon. Like I said, we spend a lot of our time at work, so there's a lot of networking at work, and then you're able to further build your network circle, which can come in handy when you're looking for a job. Also, you just demonstrate consistently great communication skills. So, preparing for job search. So this is something that I do with most participants, is that I give them, it's called the ONET. So it's a free online database containing information regarding job opportunities, career preparation, and discovery. So in the first box, you can put in keywords like build houses, construction, plumbing, and then it'll pull up those different jobs. And the next one, it's like browse career by industry. So like, let's say dental. So it may have dentist, dental assistant, dental hygienist, different jobs that pertain to dental. And then the last box, it says, tell us what you like to do. And I'll go over that in a little bit, but they ask you questions regarding your interest. So let's see. So where it said by industry, pest control worker was put in. So it says pest control, also called exterminator, pest control technician, pest technician, residential pest control technician. So this job description would be under all of those names. So what do they do? And it gives you a video that you can actually watch and see what they do. So being a pest control worker might sound really good, in words, but if you see what they do, and then you're like, oh no, I can't do that. Or, oh yeah, that's so gnarly, I want to do that. So, I mean, the video can move you either way. So what do they do? It says apply, release chemical solutions or toxic gases, and sets traps to kill and remove pests and vermin that infest buildings and surrounding areas. So the knowledge that you need to have is customer service, public safety and security in English. And then the skill is listening to others without interrupting and asking good questions and thinking about the pros and cons of different ways to solve the problem. Problem solving, of course, because you have to solve the pest problem. And then social skills would be understanding people's reactions and looking for ways to help people. The ability to communicate and listen, notice when a problem's happening and rules to solving them, and then being able to multitask, and then being able to speak clearly. And it says on the job you would record work activities performed, inspect premises to identify infestation sources and the extent of the damage on the property, the wall, roof, or porosity, and access to infested locations, and recommend treatments. And then the personality that this job would be looking for, to have integrity, dependability, attention to detail, independence, cooperation, and high stress tolerance, which I would think you would need. So these are things, and this is information that most people don't think about, when they're thinking about a pest control worker. They just think that they just come and spray their little bug spray and then leave, or come and then put down some traps with some bait, come the next day and then pick up whatever's in the trap. So there's more to pest control than just a one and done, or I'm coming once a week. These are it gives you information that most people won't think about too much. And then also too, it has a video. So the ONET interest profiler, it helps you find out your interests and how they rate to the world of work, and you can find out what you like to do. The ONET helps you decide what kinds of careers you might want to explore. So you would just click the bottom next button and you would start the interest profiler. So the ONET is like 60 questions. And then so you have like, instead of saying 0 to 10, how do you feel about this thing? Like it has like the face like, oh my God, I'm gonna die. And then it has the picture of, oh my God, yes, I want more. Okay, so like build kitchen cabinets, do you want to build cabinets or do you not want to build cabinets? And then they have the one in the middle, it's like a cabinet, no cabinet, don't really care. Then they have lay bricks or tile, develop new medicines, study ways to reduce water and pollution, write books and plays. So it asks you questions like this, there's 60 of them, to try to gauge your interest. It sounds like a lot of questions. It's really not, especially since you don't have to write in the answers. I've given this ONET questionnaire to my teenagers, and literally they completed it over a commercial break, and they were able to share like their interests with each other. So it's really easy. It's something that you can do, and if you have teenagers at home who aren't set on what career they may want to go into, it's kind of cool to give it to your kids too. It gives you something to talk about over dinner. So on the interest profiler, it gives you your results. So are you realistic, investigative, artistic, social, enterprising, or conventional? And those are the 6 areas. And then towards the bottom, it'll say like you have an icon for best fit, one for great fit, and one for bright outlook. And then you have different zones. So zone 1 would be little or no preparation needed. So something like fast food or housekeeping. Zone 2 would be some preparation, like a cashier, admin work, orderly, or like a rigger. And then zone 3 would be medium preparation. So that would be a bookkeeper, a bailiff, a dental assistant. And then zone 4 would be high preparation needed. And so that would be a job kind of like a pilot, construction manager, or a loan officer. Another resource is Career One Stop. The web address is at the top, careeronestop.org. This site is really interesting, especially if you've never been online to look for a job, or have even ventured out online, because in the first tab you can actually explore careers. So just like the ONET, it tells you about the career, things that most people don't think about when it comes to that career. The second tab, the purple one, is finding training. So they give you a list of programs. You can just put the career that you want to look into, and then it'll give you a list of programs that will meet the career that interests you. Also, it'll give you a list of schools. If the job that you're looking at doesn't require you to have a degree, you can look at the certificates. They have certificate programs on there. Also, you can go on Career One Stop to look at jobs. The jobs that are on Career One Stop go by your zip code. So this is cool too, because maybe you're looking to move to New Mexico or move to Arizona or something. You can actually look in that zip code to see what jobs they may have available there, or like how much they pay, just to play around with it. But Career One Stop is awesome. So a lot of times we grow up and we think that, we have to have a degree, we have to have our bachelor's, we have to have our master's, and that's not necessarily the case. You can still make a living wage not having those degrees. You would be surprised. There are people that make a lot of money who don't have a degree. So I'm just going to go through some jobs just to give you an idea. So you see we have roofers here. They make between $18 to $29 an hour. So these are jobs where it's like you don't need education, you need experience. And it's about getting that foot in the door. Like if somebody is willing to train you and give you a chance, give you an opportunity to learn. A stucco mason, $15 to $35 an hour, cashier, $15 an hour, personal care aide, $16 to $26 an hour. So again, with this personal care aide, It's based off of your experience, but then also too, as a personal care aide, there are some things that you can do so that you can bump up your pay. Like you can get certification in yoga for elderly. So it's just like, yes, I'm a personal aide care and I'm also certified in chair yoga. You see what I'm saying? So that you can gain more, you can make yourself more marketable because you've added a skill to being a personal aide. Or even, getting your food handlers and some kind of certificate and food prep, for elderly, like being able to make their meals, making, meals for those with high blood pressure or meals for those with that are diabetic. You see what I'm saying? So it's just like you're adding more pizzazz to being a personal aide. High school diploma or equivalent. So a glazer only needs makes $15 to $34 an hour. A loan clerk, $18 to $35 an hour. A repair worker, $19 to $21 an hour, and a repair worker can actually get work off, on the side. And then first line food prepper, $27 an hour. And this is true because I know somebody who worked in a restaurant that was in a hotel and they made $28 an hour. Prepping, not even cooking the food, just prepping the ingredients for the meals. Like when I say prepping, I mean like cutting tomatoes and cucumbers and all that stuff and just prepping the meals. They made $28 an hour. For some college, a teacher's assistant makes between $14 and $17 an hour. Now, do you see that food prepper made $28 an hour and they only had a diploma? And then for some college to be a teacher assistant is $14 to $17 an hour, but the food prepper made $10 more, just saying. A bookkeeper, $20 an hour. Computer support specialist, $18 to $35 an hour. Post-secondary non-degree award, a medical assistant, $18 to $22 an hour. An auto service tech, $23 to $30 an hour. A massage therapist, $35 to $49 an hour. And an aircraft mechanic, is that you would think that you need a whole lot of education to be an aircraft mechanic, but I mean you can be a food prep person and still make more money. But anyways, and then for the medical assistant, since COVID, I think it's easier to get a CNA license. I think it's like 6 to 8 week programs that they have now. You can check Career One Stop. So how to create relevant experience. So we're going to start at the bottom and work our way up. So you reverse engineer. So you find the job description of your dream job and then you work backwards. So you create relevant experience. So through volunteering, studying, and working on passion projects, you can create relevant experience that you can put on your resume. You can work on your soft skills and your personal brand. So you're refining those skills. Then you find the link between the skill and the experience that you have or that you need and what you need, and what you already have. And then you repackage it. So you are your brand. So you're repackaging yourself. So it's kind of how, like I was saying, with the care aid, that if you're a home care aid, but you add senior yoga, chair yoga to your package, so you have something to offer for home care, not just home care, but hey, I can do yoga with my clients, or I know how to make diabetic meals. I know how to make blood pressure friendly meals. see what I'm saying? And then connect with those working in your field, in the field that you want to work in. So just network. So if you know the right person, I mean, yeah, you can be a home care aide, but if you know somebody that's with a really good company and they can get you in, as opposed to, you know, trying to go out there and find a company that's willing to hire you at some mediocre wage. You see what I'm saying? So like, who you know really makes a difference sometimes. So the top 10 soft skills are communication, self-motivation, leadership, responsibility, teamwork, problem solving, decisiveness, ability to work under pressure and time management, flexibility, negotiation, and conflict resolution. So the benefits of soft skills is to improve employee engagement, a more pleasant work environment, more productivity, more efficiency, less conflict, less confusion, better customer service, and more profit. So this is the Eisenhower time management matrix. So, I mean, you can use this in your home life. So if it's urgent and important, you do it now. Something that's due soon, something that has a due date, you do it now. Especially if it's urgent, you do it now. Something that's important but not urgent, you can schedule it. So you schedule it to do later. Something that's not important, but it's still urgent. It's not that important, but it's still urgent. You can delegate to somebody else to do. You can put it on automate if you can do that. But those tasks you delegate for somebody else to do. And then if it's not urgent and not important, then basically you can do that at your own leisure. But this is the Eisenhower time management matrix. This is good to know and to share with your children so that they know how to utilize time management. And remember, if it's urgent and important, you do it now. If it's important but not urgent, you just schedule it, write it down on your calendar. If it's urgent but it's not really important, like anybody can do it, then just delegate it to just anybody. And then if it's not important and it's not urgent, then you can just do it at your leisure. Productivity. Productivity is lots of tasks are completed, little effort is wasted, and then your finished work is excellent. So you want to look at all those things when you're talking about productivity, and that productivity is a soft skill. So when you're looking at productivity, you're also looking at quantity, efficiency, and quality. So quantity is how much of your work did you get done. Efficiency is how little effort was wasted, how little time was wasted, and quality is how good is it, you know? So just because you did it fast and with little effort, it still needs to look good. Written communication is another soft skill. The reason why this is important to employers, depending on what field you're going into, some employers may ask you to write memos, employee manuals, faxes, instant messages, letters, and emails. When I was program director, I did not start off, I had written communication skills My boss identified them. And then after working where I was for maybe about a month or two, I was writing the company memos, sending out the letters. And then later on, I started writing the the handbook, of course, sending out emails and things like that. All the flyers that were made for the company were made by me. Most of the documents in the company, they were created by me. So having written communication skills, once your employer will see it, and it is important to have, it's always important to have at least one person in your company that has good written communication skills. So why shouldn't it be you? Creative problem solving process. So this looks really intimidating, but it's really not. So when you're problem solving, you're assessing the situation, exploring the vision, formulating challenges, exploring ideas, formulating a solution, and then exploring acceptance, and then formulating a plan. So like if you do this all the time. So you assessing the situation is that basically you've identified your problem. And then your clarification is you're identifying that there is a barrier. You're looking for it. You're looking for that barrier. And then you're trying to find solutions. And then that exploring acceptance and formulating a plan, that's putting your solution into action. So it's just like we do this little gnarly chart all the time without even thinking about it. But it's also a soft skill you can put on your resume. So what do soft skills look like when they're on your resume? So you could say leadership, you can say teamworking, you can put problem solving expert, you can put good communications or great communication skills. Okay, but for leadership, instead of just saying leadership, you can say great decision making, good at delegating tasks, great at management, mentoring and motivation, strategic planning, communication, cross-functional collaboration, ethics and accountability, conflict management, and feedback. Instead of saying teamwork, you can put I'm good with collaboration, problem solving, team planning, hosting meetings, networking, opening lines of communication, team building skills, flexibility and adaptability, motivation and support and commitment. And commitment is important because employers want to know that they're not just something to do at a certain time. They want to know that, you take your job seriously and that you're committed to it. That's a good one to put on there. Problem solving would be deductive and inductive reasoning, logic and critical thinking, creative conceptual processing, attention to detail, collaboration and teamwork. That's all problem solving. Then you have communication, active listening, nonverbal communication. That's, you have to watch your body language. That's your nonverbal communication. Public speaking, written communication, presentation, storytelling, interpersonal skills, confidence, clarity, respect, and support. Teamwork is another soft skill. In teamwork, you have creating enthusiasm and initiative to make things happen. So it's just like when you're working as a team, you have to identify that goal, and then you have to create enthusiasm so that everybody comes together. They identify the goal. They want to reach that goal. We're going to reach that goal. We're going to reach it together. We got it. It's us. We can do this. So that's where that having a clear and logical objective, you have to be able to identify the goal and bring everybody together to reach it. And then you have to be a part of that team. You can't be like, oh, I'm not doing it. Well, if I can't take the lead, then I'm not doing it. Or I don't want to work with her. It's not about her. It's not about him. It's not about, you. It's about us, and it's about the team. And can you work as a team? Are you a team player? Making sure everyone in the team is understood, delegating tasks to people with the right skills, using people with different skills in the right way, taking on a positive attitude, and learning from your setbacks. That's important in teamwork because we're not always going to be right. We are human. We're going to make mistakes, but you have to be able to take accountability for those mistakes and just keep on trying and just learn from what didn't add up. And then it's important when being a team player that you listen to other people and that you listen to constructive feedback. So we went over goals, interests, skills, values, relationships, and abilities. So your goal is the object of your ambition. It is where you find your motivation. Your interest is something that grasps your attention and that feeds your curiosity. Your skills is the ability that you have that you've obtained. So all the skills that you've taken in, everything that you've tried to learn, those are your skills. And then values are what's important to you. Not everybody's values are the same. Some might value coffee more than others value tea. So, values is what's important to you. Relationships is the network of the people around you. So look at your network and your relationships that you have with people. And your abilities is your potential, your potential for growth in a particular field. You want to make sure that when you're going out on job interviews, always speak of your potential. Like, I may not have the skill now, but I can learn it. I am teachable. I have potential, but this was Momentum's career exploration. I hope that you've gained some mass or magnitude about career and how to look for a career and the ONET and Career One Stop. And hopefully these sites interest you and you'll look into them. You can always contact me at michelle@scareinc.org. And I look forward to working with you.
Hi everybody, my name is Kate Turek. I'm the career counselor here at SCARE in Ventura, and I'm actually going to talk to you guys a little bit about FAFSA, financial aid, scholarships, things of that sort for new or returning students. So we're going to go over what types of federal financial aid is available when you complete your FAFSA. There is free money, which would be grants, your borrowed money, which is your loans that are federal, and your work study, which is earned money on or off campus. So the FAFSA is a free application for federal student aid, and it's a form that you have to complete if you're going to go into a trade, if you're planning on going to vocational school, technical school, community college, Cal State, UC, private school, whatever it may be. And it determines your eligibility for financial aid, so one of those three areas. The steps to complete financial aid, these are just 8 easy steps. It just makes it a little bit easier to understand. The first is to create your FSA ID. This is going to be done on a separate website. We can go deeper into that if you have questions, but an FSA ID allows you to sign the document and also to log into the document. So once you've done it once, you can just log in using that ID. It makes it safer in the long run because it's going to have your tax information and stuff about you, like your social. That's all going to be part of your FAFSA. Number 2 would be starting your FAFSA at FAFSA.gov. And they've actually already launched the 22-23 FAFSA. It was done October 1st. You want to complete this as soon as possible. Just realize that some schools and some states actually run out of money early or they have limited funding. So you're going to want to do it as soon as you've decided, hey, I want to go to community college or I want to go to a technical school. You want to do it quickly so you can get as much as you can out of it. Step 3 is filling out the student demographic section. And this will be things like your name, your date of birth, stuff like that. And it's all personal information. If you've already done this section before on FAFSA, and you're just a returning student, it's going to pre-populate using that FSA ID as just pulling all that stuff from your IRS information, tax information. Step 4 is listing the schools you plan to attend. Don't go small. You want to send this to any possible school you're either planning to apply to, dream schools, whatever it may be. You're going to want to send it to all of those schools, and you don't have to worry. Just realize that schools can't see where you sent your FAFSA, so they won't know that you've sent it to one state school and let's say the rival state school. Okay. Number 5 is answering the dependency section. So even if you live on your own, you're supporting yourself, you file your own taxes, stuff like that, you have to realize that you may be considered a dependent student when it comes to student aid, okay? So if you are considered a dependent student, you're gonna have to then put in the information for your parents' demographics. That's step number 6. But if they do say you're an independent, you'll just go on to step number 7, which is providing that financial information. This is a really easy step. There is a thing at the bottom. It's going to be like a tab. It's called the IRS retrieval tool. We call it a data retrieval tool, or DRT. But this actually will grab all the information that you've submitted, let's say, to the IRS, and it'll just pre-populate that whole entire page, and you won't have to worry. Sometimes it won't allow you because it's going to ask you for additional information, and you're going to actually make sure that you have your IRS information because you might have to complete that section by hand, okay? And lastly, it's going to be submitting it. Again, you'll be using that FSA ID to then put that in instead of writing your name, okay? Making it safer, and it's all going to be done and then sent to the federal government. Okay, so once all of that's completed, we're going to be sent a thing called an EFC number. This is your expected family contribution number, and this is the number that a financial aid office counselor will then use to determine your financial need and your eligibility for different grants and different loans, and we'll talk about that in the next section. Okay, so what is an EFC? What is a verification? After you've completed your FAFSA, again, you're going to be sent this report called a student aid report, and it'll have that EFC number as shown on the left-hand side. We've got your EFC, it's got your application date, processing, all that stuff. That number with the little asterisk next to it, if it has an asterisk, it means that you're going to be selected for verification, which basically is that colleges are asking you to submit additional information, okay? These things can be very basic, like tax return transcripts, siblings, college registration, proof of income if you're on SNAP, things like that. You'll have to submit that. You'll actually get a letter from the college, and it'll provide you with specific instructions. Again, you're going to want to do this as soon as possible so you know that you're eligible for as much as you can get. You don't want the school to say, sorry, we don't have any more funds. So I have a picture of just your basic student aid report, and then with the asterisk next to it, the EFC. And then this is an example of what a verification form will look like, and it'll show you the steps of what you need to do. We're going to do that as soon as possible, okay? Now we're going to talk about the different types of federal special items you can get, that's being free money, loans, things like that. So we're first going to go over what type of loans are offered by the federal government once you've completed your FAFSA. There's going to be a subsidized loan, as well as an unsub, and a parent plus or direct plus loan. Okay, so your unsub loans are going to be the ones that the government's going to pay some of the interest for. These are the ones that I try to promote as much as possible. If you have to take out a loan, which you probably will, you're going to want to take out more of that loan versus taking out of unsub loans. Unsub, you're having to pay up that interest. So as you're accruing those years and you're finishing, let's say you want to get a bachelor's degree, over those 4 years, you're gaining more and more interest, and that means over time you're going to have to pay more. Okay. Now, your eligibility for loans is dependent, of course, on your expected family contribution EFC number. You're in school, whether you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, whether you're going to graduate school, things like that. Your enrollment status, that's whether you're active, if you're in good standing, if you're full-time or if you're part-time, the estimated cost, that is, of the school that you're planning on going to, and then your financial aid office at that school will then determine how much you're eligible for each of those things, okay? Number 5, so I put a lot of numbers on here just to give you an idea of how much you can get. A lot of people don't realize that grants, which is the free money you don't have to pay back, each type of school is going to offer different amounts depending on the year that you're in school, the type of school you're going to. And again, this is determined by the estimated cost for that school. So if you go on to, let's say, University of California, Santa Barbara, it's going to say $40,000 a year. But in reality, it's not going to be $40,000. You have to take into account your grant, if you have scholarships, if you have loans, and if you have any other positive things. Hopefully it's grants primarily and scholarship, maybe even work study, okay? So we're gonna go over the different type of California-based grants that you can get. These are ones if you go to any school in the state of California, and we're gonna break it down a little bit. So there's the Pell Grant, and this is based on your EFC number. It's also based on your status. That's full or part-time at a cost of attendance, and the max is $6,495 a year. So we're gonna put that straight towards tuition, okay? An FSEOG grant, this one can range. So it can range from that $100,000 to $4,000 a year. And again, it depends, this one depends on your need. So if you're low income, when you apply, and the amount of other aid that you're getting from your school, as well as the availability of funds at that specified school, okay? Now, everyone's heard of Cal Grants, but there's different types. There's the Cal Grant B and the Cal Grant C. Cal Grant B, it depends on the type of school you go to, okay? You can go to a California community college, a Cal State, a UC school, a private, for-profit, a not-profit. It just depends. Now, for a community college, the max allowance that you're given is $1,648. This is only used for paying for books. Okay, just realize this is not for tuition. This is not for registration fees. Not for any of that. That is just purely for books and supplies for your programming. At a community college level, at a Cal State level, if you're a freshman, it's that same amount as community college. Okay, same thing. And this is going to be used for living allowances and books and supplies for college. Now you get into your sophomore, junior, senior year, it goes up to $7,390 every single year. And that's going to be split up between either quarters, if you're on a quarter system, or semesters on your semester system, okay? This is going to include tuition and fees. So unlike the ones that went before that were for books and supplies, this is going towards the larger tuition, and it'll be separated. And when you get an award letter from a financial aid office, it'll actually list that amount separated between those quarters or semesters, okay? If you are a UC freshman, it's going to go back to $1,648, just like Cal State, just like community college. And again, that amount is going to be for books and supplies. So it's not going towards your tuition. When you become a sophomore, junior, senior, it goes up to $14,218. And that is per year, and it's going to be separated amongst your semesters, grants, whatever it is that you're doing. When we go into private nonprofit colleges, it's $10,868, and that's going to be separated between your, again, quarters or semesters. There are also for-profit schools, but they're WASC accredited. Because they're accredited, it's a higher number, which is $9,704 every year, again, going towards your tuition and fees. And then when you get into for-profit unaccredited schools, which I highly do not recommend, you want to make sure your school is all the above so that when you graduate, your degree, your certificate, whatever it is that you've earned is actually worth something, okay? That one's only going to be $5,000. So it's the least amount because they're not going to want to put money towards something that could go under, okay? Then we have the Cal Grant C. This is occupational technical programs for colleges. So let's say you want to become automotive technician, a CNA, something like that, and you go to a community college. They're going to give you an additional $1,094, and that will then be used for more books, tools, equipment, all your community college costs, whether that's your parking fees, things like that. That again is another chunk to add to whatever else you've made from, let's say, Cal Grant B for community college. Private nonprofit and for-profit schools, that's your things like DeVry and stuff like that. Per year, it's an additional $3,009. Okay, this is the amount that they've listed for this last year. So things vary every year. It could be a little bit higher, a little bit less. Just be aware of that. For private nonprofits and private for-profit schools, like things like DeVry or ITT Tech and stuff like that, if you're attending a year-round private school, you have to realize there's about $2,462 of that is going to be applied directly to your tuition fees. So of that, you'll have $547. That will be for your books and supplies. Okay, whether that's tools, because you're going to do HVAC or something, or whether that's stuff for becoming a certified nursing technician, something like that. Just be aware that they do separate that, and it will be on your award letter. The last two is the EOP, or Educational Opportunity Program. They don't have them out listed. It kind of varies between colleges because not all schools offer it. If it does, I recommend this highly is apply for it. Even if you think you're not eligible, apply for it. All I can say is no. It is for low-income students, first-generation students. So your first generation going into college, whether it's community college or a Cal State or UC or private school. And it is really wonderful because a lot of the programs will actually pay for your books. So you're not having to spend any of that, $6,000, $1,600 towards books. You can actually put that towards other fees, like your tuition registration fees and parking stuff. And you might have a little extra money left, which is great because you use it for the next term. So I highly recommend people apply for it, see if you're eligible for it. EOP is a great thing, not only in helping you pay for things like books, but they also offer you the ability to register for classes early, which is really wonderful, especially if it's an impacted program, impacted classes. Usually that's your general ed classes like English or math, or it can go into specific majors, and some majors are more impacted. So just realize it's a really great way to get more assistance monetarily, as well as more assistance with tutoring and any questions you have for financial aid. You get more options to meet with that financial aid counselor and talk about things, or advisement, things like that. And lastly, the Chaffee Grant. And this one is for foster youth. So if you've spent at least one day between the ages of 16 and 18 as a dependent or as a ward of the state, you can qualify for up to $5,000 a year for career college, technical college, or college, that being like community college, basic, Cal State, things like that. That's automatically awarded. So that, again, this is all free money that in the state of California you can automatically get outside of any additional money. And we'll go into that later. Okay. We're going to talk a little bit about community college and trade schools and stuff like that, and the additional grant opportunities that they offer as well. So We have things like California Community College Transfer Entitlement Grant. Not all schools will offer this, but most in the state of California offer this. And this is for any student who is moving from a 2-year school, any community college, okay, to an accredited, keyword accredited, 4-year university program. So you have to have a 2.4 GPA, pretty basic. You have to be 28 years or younger, but they will provide money for you to transfer and go and get that higher level of education. We've already talked about the Chapter Grant, again, up to $5,000 a year. I already told you guys about that one. The Child Development Grant, and this one is for those who are planning a career in the field of child care or development. If you plan on working in a licensed child center, whether that be as a child development program director, a site supervisor, a teacher, a master teacher, whatever that may be, you have to be enrolled at least half-time in ECE-based courses that are leading to that child development permit, okay? You have to have, your academic progress has to be satisfactory. And they haven't listed them out, but a lot of schools that offer that training are gonna offer some type of monetary assistance. There's also the Law Enforcement Personnel Dependents Grant Program, and this is for spouses and dependents, so the children of and the spouses of, and it's for a bunch, like 15 or 20 different types of classification of law enforcement professionals. It'll list it once you look it up, and that is for anyone whose father or mother has actually, or spouse has either died or become totally disabled while on active duty. And this can range from $100 to $11,259 and can last to 4 years. So if you're doing a bachelor's program, it will be funding you will get all the way through, okay? The CNG-AEP, this was for National Guard, and this one does not have an amount, of course, it varies. And it's for those who are service members who remain active in either the National Guard, Naval Militia, or State Military Reserve. Again, more monetary assistance. And lastly, the CCPG, California College Promise Grant, and this waives all your enrollment fees while you're at a California community college. As long as you're a resident, you're good. And then, of course, at any technical school or vocational school that you decide to go to, they will list all the additional grants the school offers individually. And that would be, of course, speaking with a financial aid office. So we're going to go into UC additional grants. So outside of that whole huge list I have with Pell Grants and everything else, each of these types of schools are going to offer additional things. And I'm only going to list a couple. I'm not going to be listing all of them because it really varies by school, by campus. Some schools will offer so many things because they've had so many people send them money, and they're able to then extend that money to students who are low income or in need or have academic, prowess. So this is a couple that are available at all UC campuses. It's the blue and gold. This is for people who their family income is less than $80,000 a year, and it has not listed, as of right now, they have not listed how much you can get from this amount, but it is a pretty good amount that you can get per term, or whether that's semester or quarters. And then there's the middle class grant. This one can help cover up to 40% of your tuition. So you're almost at half that tuition. So let's say it says $40,000, you're at $20,000 at that point with just that one grant. And then we take all those count grant A's and B's and C's, you take in some of those Pell Grants, FSEOG, that tuition is just dropping considerably, okay? Cal States also offer additional grant opportunities, okay? So there's the Teach Grant. This is for students who are planning on teaching in a high-need field. They are gonna work at a low-income elementary or secondary school. That would be a Title I school in the state of California. You're gonna be full-time and you'll do this for 4 years. So they will give a maximum of $4,000 a year to that student to then do that program. And you have to write it down, otherwise you'll be paying it back. But it's free money if you do the 4 years and you're working full-time in that field. Some schools will actually allow the teacher grant to be used for credentials, so just be aware of that as well. Again, the middle class grant, which I've already brought up, and the SUG, or State University Grant. And this is for undergraduate students, graduate students, post-bachelor students, and they haven't put an amount for that one as of yet, but it's based at the state schools. So it just depends on the school and how much funding they have at that time. We've got work study, and this is going to be providing employment for part-time and full-time students. It's available to undergraduate, graduate, and professional students with need. So they're not going to give it to some rich kids. Just be aware of that. And it's administered by the school, usually through federal work study programs, which are under financial aid office, okay, grants offices, stuff like that. And you have to see, if you want to do this, if you're interested in it, make sure that your school actually offers it. Not all campuses offer this, okay? They provide part-time jobs for undergraduate, graduate students, as I said before, again, based on financial aid. And it will actually help you in the long run as well, besides helping pay for that tuition and fees and things like that. It also encourages community service work, and the work is usually related to a student's course of study. So this is your first step working into the field that you would, let's say your major's in. If you're doing accounting, you might be working in an accounting department, whether that's at the school or off campus. Depending on what you would like, they usually do an interview initially, just kind of see what your interests are, what you want to do after school, and stuff like that. The jobs can be located on the campus, but they can also be located off the campus, okay? Apprenticeship is another option. This is not something that's listed under financial aid, but this is a great way to do a vocational trades program and not have to worry about the additional money you'll have to pay. Okay, so this is going to be wages. You're going to get on-the-job training. You'll get college credits for classroom training, whether you're going to one of the technical schools. When you graduate, you'll come in as a journeyman, so you're making a lot more per hour, whether that's salary or hourly. It's going to be a lot higher, and usually you won't have to pay for tuition because you're actually working in that field. This is all on-the-job training, and it's preparing for a specific skilled craftsperson. Okay, so there's a couple opportunities in San Diego. There's actually a lot more than this, but I'm just going to list a couple, and that's for wiremen and telecommunications, and they both have apprenticeship programs where you get paid and you work, and that money is then going in your pocket, but also paying for credits for school. Okay, now we're going to go into scholarships, and this is one of my favorite areas. Scholarships, again, like grants, are free money, and everyone kind of knows about academic scholarships, having great grades, blah, 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 or athletic scholarships, you're amazing at baseball, whatever it may be. But a lot of people don't think about the scholarships that are for special interests. So I listed just a few, like achievements or income or study, disability, gender. But I mean, there are some really weird scholarships out there. It could be for a woman who likes to fish and wants to work in the automotive industry. Really random. And there could be $5,000 for that. So I have a favorite website that I like to use, and that's fastweb.com. And it's great because you're able to make a profile for yourself. It's free, and they will actually email you any scholarships that range from about $100 to over $50,000. Some are going to ask you for essays, very short essays, nothing long. Others are going to ask you to do a funny video. Pepsi Cola does this on a yearly basis. They'll have you make funny videos, and you can win about $50,000 a year. This money goes right into your tuition. They will send it directly to the school. Okay. I'm going to list here just a few of the scholarships. These are predominantly scholarships that are for Native Americans. Okay. I had about 17 pages of these for either Native Americans, re-entry into education, single parent scholarships that were online this previous year. And last year alone, over $700,000 worth of awards, specifically for Native Americans, was not awarded. Okay, that is because nobody applied for those grants. So $700,000 was just sitting there. And all these students who were paying out of pocket, they could have applied for that and could have won some money. So, I'm really big on apply for as many scholarships as possible. This is a wonderful way to not have to pay out of pocket and be able to pay for the gas, help with your rent, things like that. This is going to be the additional assistance that would be really, really great for you. And lastly, we're going to talk about your financial aid letter. Okay, so I put a little bit of an example, okay, of what an award letter would look like. They're going to put that estimated cost of attendance for that school year and break it down. As you can see, it's got tuition and fees and housing and meals. If you're more of a needer, it's going to be higher. If you're less of a needer, it's going to be lower. Books and supplies on average. Transportation, that being, getting there back and forth from your apartment or from your parents' house, whether or not you're paying for a parking permit, things like that, and any additional costs. Okay, so it'll kind of give you an idea. Then it'll list by Pell Grant, grants from their state, other scholarships. So that would be all those scholarships you applied for, grants from your school or scholarships from your school, and then it'll break it down, work study, net cost, stuff like that. Okay, this is pretty much what an award letter looks like. They can come in different, they have different names. So some people will say it's an award letter, other people use other words, depends on the financial aid office. But you will either get an email, it will come in the mail, like hard copy, or it'll be in your student portal. But you'll receive this after you've accepted. So let's say you've been accepted into San Diego State University, you've been accepted into UC San Diego, and you've been accepted to Oceanside, one of the community college. Okay, so everything's good. You got all these letters. Well, even though you haven't said, yes, I want to go to the school, you can actually look at the award letter and maybe decide based on that if you're confused as to where you want to go first. That's a really great way of helping yourself figure out financially what's the best fit for your lifestyle. I recommend looking at your financial aid letter because the UC overall could look more expensive, but they might offer you way more money than a Cal State. And in the end, you actually pay less than a Cal State. So always, always, always look at the award letter that the school sends you, okay? Don't think that that private school that you really like is out of reach. Realize that once you look at that, that award letter, it might not be out of reach as much as you think it is. And it might be cheaper than, let's say, your friend who's going to San Diego State School. You never know, based on just your specific needs and how much your parents make. And if you're on your own or if you have children and things like that, you got to take into account all those extra things. So again, my big thing I want to really stand out is always fill out your financial aid. Whether you're going to any school, it doesn't matter. You need to fill that out. It makes you eligible for all these additional things like grants, free money. Please apply for scholarships. There's a lot of money out there and not everyone is applying. So there's money for you to use, and there's money for the weirdest things. As I stated, the woman who likes, fishing, who wants to work in the automotive industry. There's scholarships for the weirdest things. For brown eyes, people that have 2 different color eyes, just random stuff. So please apply for scholarships. Realize that you might have to take out loans, but go for the loans that the government's going to be paying chunks for, okay? Go for the loans that are going to be the lowest interest, that you're not paying as much in the long run. If anybody ever has questions, you can call our office here in Ventura. You can email, whatever you want to do. But my name is Kate Turek. Thank you for listening a little bit to a lot of information. If you have any questions, go ahead and call me, whatever you want to do. Have a wonderful day, you guys.
Hey, ever heard the phrase, it's not what you know, it's who you know? We've all heard it. I know you have. So today, that is the topic of our discussion. We're going to be talking about networking, specifically career opportunities through networking. My name is Kayla Hilario, and I am invited by Miss Wanda. Thank you so much for having me to discuss this topic. So you might remember me from SCARE. I was a career career coach, career development department, and I did some other positions at SCARE, but I really enjoyed working with so many community members, and honestly, it was my favorite job that I ever held. So thank you for having me. After SCARE, I did do some important work with the census, Census 2020. And then after that, I went to work for Vaccine Network, both vaccine and census work for tribes. And now I'm in a more general position with the state as licensing program analyst. So overseeing the health and safety of elder care homes and homes for developmentally disabled. So thank you so much for joining me. I'm gonna start jumping into this topic of career opportunities by telling you a short story about how I got my first job. So I was taking a community college class called Azteca Danzantes, and we danced with the community members of Aztec dancers who practiced together weekly. And it was actually a class that I got credit for, which was amazing. But long after the class was over, the community invited me in, and I continued to do Aztec dancing with them. And eventually I let somebody know that I was starting to look for employment. So that person had a roommate that was looking for people to apply for a job, and it was in my chosen career field. He made the connection, I applied for the job, and I actually ended up working there for 12 years. So many of my professional network came from that one opportunity, doing something I loved in the community, dancing with, practice dancing weekly with the Aztec dancers, something I really enjoyed, and I ended up making a contact that led to a job opportunity that eventually led to many more. So I am going to talk to you today about career opportunities through networking. So I'll share my little slideshow here. Our objectives for today are going to be to learn about why networking is important to your job search and career opportunities. Hopefully you're going to learn new tips, and skills for networking, and be able to identify resources and skills to improve your professional network. So in thinking about networking and what someone might want to know, or if they don't know what networking is, or how do they get started on this if you're early in your career, some of the topics that I thought would be important to discuss are: what is networking, first of all? What are networking skills? Why is networking so important? In which careers is networking most important? What are some examples of networking? So I just shared one of my examples of networking, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. How can I improve my network, oops, I have a typo there, network working skills? And what are some resources that I can use to become better at networking? So first, let's talk about what is networking. So the dictionary describes networking as the exchange of information or services among individuals, groups, or institutions. So specifically, the cultivation and production of relationships for employment or for business. So the number one cause of job obtainment is networking. So that just goes to show how important networking is. So even though networking can seem really daunting, especially if you're an introverted person, I hope that this presentation will give you a few skills, a few tips, a few ideas for kind of moving past that discomfort, and knowing that you don't have to break into an anxiety sweat if you're invited to a networking event, or if you're asked to network. I hope that you'll learn a couple skills to sort of begin to overcome that. And hopefully, as you grow in your career, that this becomes something that's very natural to you, something that you can take with you and build upon throughout your professional and personal life and career. So what are networking skills? So some networking skills are small talk. So small talk is very important. Communication is very important in networking skills. One of the greatest things about networking skills, one of the biggest skills that you're going to want to have is follow-up. So it's great to meet somebody at an event and they have opportunities that you can apply for, but then if you never follow up, then it was all for nothing. So networking skills are competencies that you need to have to maintain those professional and social contacts. Networking is a critical skill in sales and business and other entrepreneurial industries, but really networking is going to be important to you throughout your career. Networking are skills that are necessary to make and develop relationships with new contexts and promote something of value, which is you, your skills, and what you have to offer. So networking should be mutually beneficial. So not only do you have something to offer, which is, your hard work, your expertise, your experience, your willingness to work hard, but that the person that you're networking with can hopefully offer you some advice, some referrals, some recommendations, some of their employment history or experience that might be valuable to you. So remember, as you're building your networking skills, it's not only a take. You want to make sure that you have something valuable to offer. I know somebody that's really good at networking in their professional and personal life. This person has gotten Uber, interviews through talking with Uber drivers on the way home from an airport. They've met contacts through softball tournaments where they know somebody that can come and work on home improvement projects. Those are great relationships, and it's important because the person who's needing a home improvement project can have comfort and trust in the person that they're hiring, and then also the person they're hiring gets new business. So that's a very beneficial and mutual relationship. So networking doesn't only have to be professional, it can also be personal. So like communication, active listening, and social skills, networking skills are extremely valuable to have, like I said, in both professional and personal environments. And they're particularly coveted by employers. So we'll talk about LinkedIn later on, but one of the goals that I'm trying to reach is 500 contacts, 500 connections. And so once you get over 500 connections in LinkedIn, then it stops tracking it. So many of you are familiar with Facebook. LinkedIn is just like Facebook, but it's for professional contacts. So you have a news feed, you have contacts, you have messages. And after you get over 500 contacts, then it stops tracking that. So it just says 500 plus. And so that looks really good to employers as you're building your career and building yourself and making yourself marketable, because it shows that you have a big network to draw from, and you know a lot of people in your chosen career field. So I put a little article link here on the bottom. Indeed.com has some wonderful articles. This is one that I pulled from, so I hope that you will take the time to check it out if you want to go a little more in depth about that. So why is networking so important? Networking is important because people want to hire and do business with people that they know and trust. So a lot of times, you submit your cover letter, your resume, you may never hear back. But if you, for example, had a lead into that job, for example, the story that I told when I got my first full-time job, where I knew somebody that knew the hiring person that helped me get an interview, the value of networking cannot be understated. That was, a really good example of how your network can help you stand out among many applicants in your job search. So when employers are looking through piles of applicants, having a relationship with the person who's hiring, or having been given a referral to the person who's hiring, is going to be super valuable to you as you continue on in your career. Sometimes jobs are not advertised at all. So according to Forbes, 80% of jobs are landed through networking, and a lot of them are not even posted formally. So that's another reason why networking is so important. Here's another article. I put a link here at the bottom. So if you wanted to dive more into this is a really great article about networking. So what are some examples of networking? So in this slide, I put a little bit about where you could network. So for example, you could network at, like I had mentioned before, a softball league, Maybe you go to Indian education meetings and somebody there works for a construction company and you're looking for work in construction. You could attend local fitness classes. Even there's a lot of things online now. So there's Toastmaster classes online. There's tons of interest groups online, and you can start going to those kind of groups. I mentioned my Aztec dancing group where we practiced weekly. Those are some great examples of where you can network. So also like in line at the store, at a powwow, at a regalia making class, at a beading group. Great examples of where you can meet people. And it doesn't always have to be at that, nervous function, that networking function at a conference. Don't think of networking as so formal. Networking is about making friends, making connections, and it doesn't have to be so anxiety causing. So give yourself a break, kind of relax, just think about how can I make small talk? How can I meet people and start learning about them and sharing about myself? So another great way to do that is to keep in touch with your former supervisors and coworkers and classmates. Especially supervisors, they make great recommendations if you did well at that job. But I talk about LinkedIn a lot when I'm doing my professional networking. So one of the things before I left the census is I sent all of my coworkers LinkedIn connections, requests to be friends so that we can keep in touch on LinkedIn. And so it's different from your social media. You don't have to have the same friends on your Facebook as you have on your professional LinkedIn account. Some might. For example, I have a big connection of friends in Sacramento, and some of them have grown and might be executive directors of different places now, and they've really grown in their careers. So I keep in touch with them on both Facebook because I was friends with them, before we both got so far in our career. But I also have a lot of those same friends on LinkedIn. But for sure, I keep all of my current colleagues and new colleagues. I always send them messages on LinkedIn so that we can keep in touch. So here's a great example. As I was updating my LinkedIn profile for this presentation, one of my colleagues from college reached out to me. She had congratulated me on my position, but I wasn't at that position anymore. So I thanked her and I said, thank you. Unfortunately, I'm not at that position anymore. But thank you for reaching out and keeping in touch. And she responded to my email with, hello, it's so good to hear from you. Where are you working these days? I'm working for the California Department of Housing and Community Development, and I have a ton of positions coming online. We're especially looking for folks with tribal community understanding and experience. If you're ever open to chatting about it, let me know. It'd be great to connect. All my positions are 100% telework, so as long as folks are primarily based in California. So that was a great example of networking, and it just kind of came across as I was checking my LinkedIn. I'm usually more active on my LinkedIn when I am looking for employment, but I did want to update my LinkedIn for this presentation. So I did go in and respond to her and told her I would love to hear about these opportunities, and I'd love, to reconnect. Graduated. It's been 5 or 6 years now, so love to reconnect and learn about the positions that you have. And I'm sure she'll be responding to me soon. But that's a great example of how the relationship is mutually beneficial. She has a position, she's trying to fill it with qualified people, and having somebody that she knows from college is a great example. She kind of knows my skill level a little bit. We worked together on projects when we were in college, so she knows me, versus somebody that she's going to pull out of a pile and interview. And it's great for me because it's a great opportunity for me to get to work in the tribal community again, which is where I'm hoping my career will take me back to. And so this was a very mutually beneficial connection, and another great example of networking. So how can you improve your networking skills? So as we mentioned before, small talk is really important in networking, especially if you're meeting someone for the first time. Don't shy away from opportunities to meet new people. I would actually try to seek those out, especially if you're looking for employment. Again, forget about the traditional idea of networking and this formal event where, employers are meeting. applicants. That is one way. Job fairs are great for meeting new people, new employers, but that's not the only way to network. And, as the Forbes article mentioned, 80% of people are hired through networking. So think about your friends, think about your family, and we're going to get into that here in a second. So one of the articles I did pull from was from Ryan Serhant, and you might know him from $1 Million Listing New York. He is one of my favorite salesmen. He has short videos online on YouTube, and his primary focus is teaching people how to become better salesmen. But one of the articles that I found that was really good is about making a friend in 120 seconds, 5 quick tips by Ryan Serhant. So here's another link that you can go into, and if you want to take a deeper dive into some of these topics. But he says to remember that your best friend was once a stranger. We have a best friend and we tell her all these embarrassing stories or our deepest, darkest secrets, but remember that person was once a stranger. So as you're networking, people are strangers right now, but you don't know where that relationship is going to take you. And so hopefully that kind of eases your mind and helps you to think about networking in new ways. Another tip he gives is that everyone loves a compliment. So it's easy to strike up a conversation if you can give a compliment. Like, I really love those shoes. I love those earrings, or, a compliment about something that's genuine. So we don't want to give like fake compliments like, oh, I really like your hair, if you don't really like their hair. But do something that's genuine. It's a lot easier to find a compliment, hopefully, than you might think. He also states that basics matter. So make sure you're being respectful, make sure you're being, you're speaking clearly, you're speaking loud enough, make sure you're making eye contact, you want to smile. All of those things are going to be important in making that first impression. So basics matter. Also, make sure that you get contact information. So I forgot one. Ask questions. So asking questions is a great way to keep the conversation going. So if you're at an event, you can say, oh, isn't this a beautiful night? Or, isn't this a great spread of food? Or, how'd you like that presentation? If it's something more formal, but asking questions is another great way to break the barrier of conversation. If you are an introvert, I would definitely suggest having some questions in your back pocket so that you don't have to if you're already nervous about going up to somebody and talking to someone you don't know, you don't have to also think about what you're going to talk about. So have a couple questions in your back pocket that you can easily ask someone you don't know. How's your day going? Can you believe this weather? I can't believe it's raining this hard today. Or, I know we live in San Diego, but it's 80 degrees in January. What is this? Have some simple topics that you can talk about easily so that it's easier for you to make conversation with people you don't know. Also get contact. That's very important. Make sure if you do make a good lead, if you do have a good lead for an employment, make sure that you get contact information. So again, the link for that article is there. Ryan suggests talking to 5 new people a day. That seems like a lot, even for me. I would challenge myself to make 1 new friend a day, especially because it's COVID and we don't get out as much as we used to get out. But I do challenge you to try to make small talk. If you're introverted, start there. Start with making small talk. Start with thinking of questions. Start with talking to strangers. And then as you practice, you'll get better and better. And then you can start expanding your network, and when you'll start feeling more comfortable talking to people you don't know, and then you can get more into the career and professional development topics. Next slide is what are some resources that I can use to become better at networking. So some of the resources that I've mentioned already is LinkedIn. Social media is Facebook is another one, but it's kind of tricky because you don't want to invite a professional professional contact to be your Facebook friend if you're going to be sharing a lot of personal things. So LinkedIn is a great tool for just keeping it very professional. You can share professional articles. You can still keep in touch. You can check out what they're doing. You can look for employment. You can do a lot of very cool things on LinkedIn, and that is where you should keep your professional contacts. In addition to, if you want to keep an email address, we'll talk about that in a second. Toastmasters is a great group to join if you're shy. It can help you come out of your shell a little bit. Their goal is to practice public speaking. They have many online courses now, or groups that meet. I've never actually participated in Toastmaster, but it's a group where you practice speaking in public. So it'll be a great place for you to kind of brush up on those skills of talking to strangers and meeting strangers. So that's a great resource. Don't forget about your network of family and friends. It's a good idea if you're starting out in your career, if you're looking for a new job, to let 5 of your family and friends know that you're looking, and to be very specific. So it's not enough just to say, oh, I'm looking for work. You need to say, I'm looking for work in nonprofit. I think I might like to do social services type work or help the poor. I'm thinking of organizations like United Way or Father Joe's Village, where I can help the homeless. Know what you're looking for when you go into networking so that you can be specific and people can help you if they have connections. Another resource that you can use is to tap into some of those special interest groups. I mentioned the Aztec dancing group, but there's also groups on like National Congress of American Indians has campaigns where they are looking for youth to go out in the community and talk about voting. And so they build a network of youth. And you can start to build your network at something like that, where it's a kind of a volunteer, but it'll be a great professional experience for your resume, and you'll be able to meet some great new contacts. So don't be afraid to volunteer and try something different that way. Also, some of the SCARE career development presentations are great for meeting people and keeping in touch with resources. That is a great resource. Of course, is going to be your career counselor at SCARE. And those presenters that come in to talk about employment and job opportunities, it's great if you can keep in touch with them. They can become great resources. So we had somebody come in from UC San Diego, for example, and that presenter offered to review resumes. And so if you were looking for employment, you might keep in touch with her right away after the presentation, email her and say, I loved your presentation. Can we get together and talk about my resume and opportunities for employment at UC San Diego? So I want to mention that you never want to ask for the job. What you're asking for with networking is resources, advice, referrals. You're never asking for employment, because that puts the person that you're asking in a really tough position of perhaps having to reject you because they're not the person hiring. Or maybe they don't even know who's hiring, so it kind of puts them in an awkward position. So it's best if your networking is just about finding advice from people who might be in that career already, or maybe you can ask somebody, do you know any companies that are hiring in the nonprofit area? Do you know of any organizations that serve the homeless in El Cajon? Those kind of things are what you're looking for through your network. You're not going to specifically ask for employment. So you belong to many networks already, TANF, SCARE, church, tons of networks already. So tap into those networks, and they are all great resources for you as you are looking for career opportunities through networking. This is another resource I wanted to share. You can create an Excel spreadsheet. So this is just a quick sample I put together. So with your Excel, you're going to put your job link. So whatever that website is that you applied with, you're going to put the point of contact. You're going to put your login and password. That will be really valuable to you because they all have different criteria for what your password needs to be. And so when you go back in, let's say you get an email that you have a message and you have to log back into the website, this is a great tool for keeping track of all those different passwords so that you can easily go back in and check your messages. This is also really helpful if you want to go back in months later or a year later. Let's say you applied for a government job and now you want to go back in and see what else is available now. But when you try to log in, it says you have the wrong password, but you know you've been in this website. So this is a great tool that I like to use also for keeping a log of all those different passwords. This also works in your personal life too. I have another Excel for that. But so use these kind of resources. Another thing you can do is with Excel, there'll be tabs across the bottom. You can open a new tab and make a list of all your family and friends that you'll want to reach out to and let them know that you're looking for a job. So this will be a great way to keep in touch with them. They might offer you valuable information about people that are hiring or some advice that they might have. And this is kind of another great way to keep an ongoing record of things that you've talked about and who you talked to them. Because in a couple months, you're going to be like, who told me to go look for a job at the Goodwill, or that they had a lead at the Goodwill? I can't remember now. So this would be a great tool for kind of helping you to keep track of who told you what, especially if you're going to be talking to a lot of people while you're looking for your job. So why do people want to help you? People will definitely want to help you because it makes them feel good. So don't feel embarrassed about approaching family and friends about your job search. If they can help you, they will. Everybody knows what it's like to be out of work, and they can empathize with you as you're looking for a new job. So just keep in mind that people do want to help you. You're not being pushy. You're not being a salesperson. So I hope that you will make your lists and start reaching out. So our next question is, in which careers is networking most important? So networking is important to all careers. You might think of sales. Sales is one that's extremely important. Business, if you're building a new business, you're trying to get off the ground. If you're an entrepreneur, of course, networking is going to be probably the number one thing you need for a successful business. But networking isn't going to be important to you throughout your life. So even if you're not going in sales, business, entrepreneurship, networking is still going to be important for you throughout your career. So focus on networking as building relationships and not so much as a sales type of thing. So next we're going to go into LinkedIn, and here is my LinkedIn profile. What you can do when you have a LinkedIn profile is you can put this little banner on it that says you're open to work. So if you just click on this little open to right here, you can click through a couple of things. You're open to hiring. You'll have to select a couple things, and then when you save that, it'll show on your profile that you are open to work. Make sure when you create your LinkedIn profile that you post a professional picture. You don't want to post something too personal, of course, nothing with you drinking or nothing with, a baby on your lap. You want this to be a very professional photo that you can share. 87% of recruiters and hiring managers use LinkedIn to find candidates. So this is a great tool and a great resource. The link is linkedin.com. You go in, you create your profile. You can put what type of job you're looking for. There's another piece right here that's really important. The little banner under your name will show exactly what you're looking for, and especially if you're looking for work, that's a great place to put the type of work that you're looking for. This will show you, kind of has like a resume on here. Again, I have 348 connections. My goal is to get to 500, because after 500, it doesn't say how many you have, it just says 500 plus. So this is basically a resume. You're going to have your experience, and then your education. You can even put volunteer experience on here. You can put your skills on here. You can put, I have some projects from college. So the girl that emailed me about tribal opportunities, we worked on this project manual together. So that was one of the things that I was really proud of. So I put that on here. So this is a great tool for employers to find you. Also, You can look for employment on here. You can search by skill. You can search by region, area. There's a number of criteria you can look for. You can message people, of course. That's one of the great functions, is you can keep in touch with your professional networks. And when you're looking for a job or you've highlighted certain jobs that you're interested in, you can also go on here and highlight those, and it'll email you when certain jobs pop up that meet your criteria for what you're looking for. So the last thing that I wanted to share is that you can go on to LinkedIn and look up some great professional articles. So everything on here is career development focused. So you can put like networking articles, and you can read a bunch of articles about networking. You can look at who wrote them and see how credible they are. So this is a great resource. So I wanted to make sure to share that with you. And finally, I hope that we've met our objectives. Hopefully we learned about what networking is and why it's so important to our job search and to our career opportunities. I hope that we learned some new tips and skills for networking, and hopefully we identified some resources and skills to improve your professional network. So your challenge now is to go out and create your LinkedIn profile, to go out and create your simple spreadsheet. It doesn't have to be time consuming. It took me about 3 minutes to create that simple one, and you'll fill it in as you go along. Those are your two challenges, your mission, should you choose to accept. And hopefully you can begin your small talk and then start creating your network. If you have other questions, of course, talk to your career counselor at SCARE, talk to your career counselor at TANF. They were great resources to me when I was looking for employment, and they have a valuable network that hopefully they can share with you. And so start building your own network, start your small talk, create your platforms, and be ready for the opportunities. Have your updated resume, and you'll be ready to go when the opportunity comes. So thank you so much for your time today. Thank you, SCARE, for allowing me to share this information with you. And I look forward to hopefully seeing you all in the community soon. Thank you again. Bye-bye.